does, and it sounds odd to admit that, so thank you. And because people look at you and just see a success story. I mean, you've really accomplished a lot.
You don't put your failures on Wikipedia.
Yes, exactly. Or your Facebook page.
Yeah. By the way, I struck out with a girl today. She wouldn't call me back. And by the way, I had another book that nobody bought. Like, you don't write those things down.
Yeah.
You know?
Someone who is here going, oh, my life's a failure. I don't know what to do. Everyone is doing so well. How do you know? I just saw this one on Facebook. She's doing this and he's doing that. And I'm like, they don't write that. Today
I think it's helpful, especially at our age, over 30, that we have a lot of friends that have had great success, and at the same time, as you get to know them, they have the same struggles as everybody else. And even if they have a financial basis, especially actors, I mean, they're real famous for a year, and they don't work for a year. So you see these ebbs and flows, and if you can look back on your life and say, okay, I'm going to live to be 100 years old, and hopefully we will 100, 120, it doesn't really matter what happens in the next 6 months. I could work on a project, and I worked on projects for marketing projects. I've worked on TV shows that never went for 5, 6, 7 months. But if I can look at it from a perspective of a 100-year plan, it doesn't really matter. But most people get so attached to this project, and they're like, if this doesn't work, my life's going to fail. And I think perspective is everything. It's kind of like watching the movie Gravity. If you could see the world from the space of space, you're like, wow, this is one big planet, we're all here together. It doesn't really matter if she goes out with you or not. It doesn't really matter if you're a day late on your mortgage. It's this whole planet. And so, if you back up beyond that, if it's not just from another position in space, but if you believe in past lives, it becomes more irrelevant. So the farther away you can get from the problem as a perspective, the easier it is for you to detach from the outcome. And I know that sounds kind of Buddhist, but if you can want and you can move forward without attachment, your life becomes a lot easier.
Oh, that was beautifully said, because a lot of people are stuck in a situation where they're going, I can't move forward because this roadblock's in my life, regardless of what it is. An ex who's, constantly infringing on their life in one way or another, or a boss that's putting them down, or something in their life, siblings or children with difficulties, that they're saying, I can't move forward, you don't understand my life. But if you do what you just said and detach, put some space there, people could actually see the forest for the trees.
Well, one of my businesses, we deal with forgeries and divorce cases and lawyers, a lot of high-profile stuff where a lot of people. But what's interesting is in the middle of these horrible legal battles where their entire estate is at risk, they are so blinded by the forest, they can't get back. And since I've seen so many people go through divorce, go through lawsuits, and a year later, it's all handled. It all gets handled. Someday, even if you lose the judgment, you know what? It'll be handled. So your wife takes everything. I have a friend who's been through a couple of divorces, and he goes, my first marriage cost me $9 million. I loved her, and I went and made 9 more. But at that moment, he could have held resentment, or he could have said, I could make more. And he never held resentment for it. And they have a kid together, and they're happy. And then, and so if you could have that perspective in the moment, which most people don't do, you don't have to get so attached to the outcome. So the answer is fear. Yeah, you ever have fear? Of course you have fear. I think there's 2 major epidemic problems, both in teenagers and adults. It's a fear of failure and a fear of rejection. Those are the 2 major things that stop people. And every once in a while I see somebody that has neither one of those. And they're either brilliant or the most obnoxious person in the room. I've probably been called both of those. So when I was younger, I made an effort to change both those personalities. I didn't want to be a fear of rejection. I didn't want to be a slave to what you thought of me. And what's interesting, a friend of mine...
That's a great phrase, a slave to what you thought of me. It's a lot of people feel that way.
My father used to say, it's none of my business what you think of me. And it was just a great quote. And it's hard not to, because we want to be liked, especially if you're in sales or persuasion. I mean, you want people to like you, because they're not going to give you money or make love to you or marry you if they don't like you. So there's a definite cause and effect to liking you. But I learned this when I did stand-up comedy. And if you look at some of the greatest comedians, they seem to be fearless when they're on stage. And I know a guy who thinks he's funny, but he's not very funny. And it's because when he's on stage, he can't go for a joke without having a safety net. He can't just say, darn it, this is funny, and I'm going to talk like this, and everyone's going to laugh. Like, he can't do that because he has this fear. It's in his handwriting and everything else. So one thing I said, the thing is, you just don't have enough courage to be boldly funny. Because, and I tell you this specifically because one of my relatives said, yeah, Bart's really funny, but it's hard to be funny because what if they don't laugh? It's really risky to make a joke and then have dead silence. yeah, it hurts.
Yeah,
and you learn.
Yeah.
And you go, that's not very funny.
Yes.
But most of the time, over a period of 20 years, if you're going to be a prankster, you learn what's funny very, very quickly. And so I probably bat 85% when I tell jokes.